Welcome to the Doghouse. Have a listen as we take a look at life, love, and art in all its forms. Here's your host, the Rock Dog, Andrew Davis.
This is the second part of my interview with Elaine Campbell.
And, so, I met my first husband, Tony, and, so I saw him first at ice skating, and we met, and we started dating, and, I was thrilled. I was really happy with him. Of course, you're 15, 16 years old, so you know everything, and you know what love is, too, and at our young age, that was love. We didn't know there's different types and steps in love. There's a pathway. There's different. Some people are only meant to be for a short time. And some people are only meant to be to raise children, and that they go on and they're with someone else. It all unfolds the way it's supposed to be. And so, yes, I ended up getting pregnant at 16, and my mother being so proper and everything, and oh my goodness, I kept it to myself. I just kept it to myself, and I told a couple of my girlfriends, and I came in the house one night, and my mother had just gotten off night duty, and she was in bed. No, she was on afternoon, whatever. She was laying down because she had been working. And I was cold, and I put the heat up. And my mother came barreling into the kitchen and yelled at me for having the heat up because she couldn't sleep with the heat on. I don't blame her. But it was coming up through the vent, whether the vent was shut or not, it was still coming through, And I didn't mean to disturb her like that, but anyway. And I said, I can't help it. I said, I'm scared and I'm upset. She said, what's going on? She said, I said, I'm pregnant. And she sat down and she didn't yell. She wasn't a yeller. My mother didn't yell. That's one wonderful thing, is that she wasn't into yelling. She was a gentle woman that way, and in a lot of ways. But she said, I think it's best you either, she talked about Tony, and I said, well, I love Tony. Well, you either get married or you'll have to give the baby up for adoption. Well, me knowing that I was adopted, I wasn't going to adopt my baby out. And I was intent that I was in love with Tony, and that was all there was to it. We were getting married. Well, the wedding was planned, and wasn't it a lovely wedding? A great big social for my mother-in-law, my in-laws, and my own mother. It was all planned at the Oak Bay Beach Hotel, like a nice 3 o'clock afternoon wedding. Their friends invited. I had to beg and plead to have a maid of honor. I had to beg and plead, and I could only have, and my wedding dress, I could only have a wedding dress my Aunt Dorothy, the miserable aunt, would buy for me if I allowed her daughter to be in the wedding procession as a bridesmaid. And Elizabeth used to do things that bothered me, and it was embarrassing, especially when I was that much younger, and we go to the Empress and have some tea or something. She's picking her nose and flicking it. And I'm being honest. Come on. Let's be honest here. That's what people do that. So, she wasn't the only one, but she's sitting there at the table. And we've got sandwiches on the table, and it's supposed to be proper in there anyways. I knew that much. I didn't like being there, but I went because my old grandmother was there. And there's Elizabeth right next to me doing that. So, it's annoying. And I wanted to shake her or knock her off the chair because her mother and father, they pampered her so much, they just didn't teach her, you don't do that, especially in public. And so there she is, and it's like, I couldn't stand it, so I offered her a Kleenex, a napkin or something we had there. And I said it out loud. Anyway, I know it sounds like a big deal. It was a big deal to me. It was disgusting. It was like, how embarrassing. But anyway, I had to have this woman be a bridesmaid in my wedding, and God knows what she'd do up at the table. So, anyway, yes, my aunt, so I said, yes, Elizabeth can be a bridesmaid. So, she took me to Gibson Girl in Victoria on Douglas Street. I'll never forget. And I put on this dress. It had little sheer chiffon sleeves, and it came down mid-length past my knees. You know, this is the hippie days, the start of the hippie days. You know, I mean, I would have liked something that was more with it. Not that I needed to have a mini-length wedding dress or something, but something that I could choose that I would like to wear to get married in. But it was a straight-laced bow neck. It wasn't a wedding dress to begin with. It was one off the rack. It was all $35 or something. But anyway, I was getting married, and that was my wedding dress. And I was going to have some little gardenias and some spray of baby's breath or something for a bouquet. It was set for 3 o'clock in the afternoon at the Old Bay Beach Hotel, May the 22nd. Can't even remember the date right now. It's not important. Anyway, Tony and I were married. We bought a little house on Oswego Street in Victoria, just near Dallas Road. Came out onto Dallas Road. And wonderful little wartime house, it was called. Well, they're all sort of made the same. Our mortgage then was $65 a month. We paid $7,500 for the house. The $500 being that the elderly man that lived in that home with his wife for many years, he just walked out. He basically took the clothing on his back and whatever and went into a home. So the $500 went towards the furnishings. You opened the doors, the cutlery was all there. It's like they just, walked out of the house, left everything behind. So there we were. Well, Elaine was going to be the perfect housewife. And she was going to be the perfect mother. And I became obsessive compulsive. So the house had to have, Lord, when I think of what I liked then, Danish furniture, you know, the orange enamel pots and things, and the teak coffee table, and all this business. And then they asked me, what would you like? You need a washing machine, dryer. And there was a little laundry room, but there wasn't a washer or dryer in there. So they said, we'll get it hooked up, but we can give you that as a wedding gift, you know, sort of from the family. And I said, oh, okay, it's great. Had no use for a dryer, really. I knew I had a clothesline. But I really was excited about a washing machine, and I wanted a wringer washer, and they were taken aback by that. What does she want? A regular, modern, square washing machine? Why does it have to be a wringer washer? Hey, I have something about washing. It's followed me throughout my whole life, and I have to hand wash basically all my stuff. So anyway, I got that wringer washer and the plumbing all hooked up, and I liked it because I had control over how long things washed for, and then you could turn that off and switch it and rinse, get rid of the water, fill it up again, put it on the rinse, and then throw everything in that roller like it would come up like pancakes. I loved it. If I had one to this day, I'd use it and love it. They're wonderful. They're nothing like these. They're way better than these things that we have now. Really. And then I had a clothesline, so all Sean's diapers and everything were out in the clothesline every day, and I was just a happy camper. And I took such good care of Stephen. I'm sorry, I'm calling him my second son's name. It was Stephen. Gave birth to Stephen in the Jubilee Hospital. And the birth was sort of a Well, the nurse said when my water broke, I've never seen so much water come out of a small person, but I had toxemia. And so I could put a dinner plate here and eat. You know, I took corners on a slant. I was so big. And Stephen was 7 pounds, 6.5 ounces, and 28 inches long. It was quite a length, you know. Anyway, I adored him, and Tony was happy, and we brought him home, and he had a beautiful little room all ready for him, and he was just sweet. And I started to be the mother to Stephen, and the wife to Tony, and a house to look after, and a family. So I had removed myself. I basically removed myself from my mother, living at her house, and that private school. And got myself into a marriage and being a mother. Well, the marriage lasted about 17 months. And Tony was always going down to the States with his friend. They were car buffs, and we had like a 1930 and a 1928 Model A's in our driveway, and an MG twin cam. There was only 2 twin cams in BC. Tony had one of them, and it was always like cars. And I'd get left alone a lot, you know, the weekends he'd be gone. He worked as a welder at BMD shipyards. So we were drifting. We were drifting apart. It was very slow. Then it came to the point where we just didn't want to be together anymore, and so I moved to my mother's house. Tony moved to his folks' house, 2 blocks up the street. I should have known ahead of time what's up when the house gets... It was my mother-in-law that found the house for us in the first place. 2 blocks away from Simcoe Street. You know, that's where they lived, right? So they were handy-dandy. But I have to say I was very, very close to my mother-in-law. I trusted her. I loved her. I wish that she was my mother. But there's where my trust got screwed up, too.
Yep.
Anyway, so I need to take a hairdressing course. Actually, I stayed in the house for some time. Tony moved out first, and then I moved out. And at that time, it was because I was going to take a hairdressing course. And I would need to either put Sean in a foster home, or my mother-in-law, who I was very, very close to, offered to take Stephen while I took the hairdressing course, which was a period of, I believe, 8 months. So I lived at my mother's home, back at my mother's, and I agreed for Jane to take care of Stephen while I took the course, feeling that that was the absolute ultimate best thing to do. I mean, he wasn't going to be in some foster home or something. But getting myself out the door to be able to go to the school was hell. And I made it. By the time I got up to the corner of Bay in Richmond, my heart's just bang, 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 and I'm sweating. And the bus is way down the street, but at least I can see it's coming. And I was a nervous wreck. And I get on that bus, and I was all shaky, and I get off downtown on Douglas Street and go over to the House of Glamour Beauty School, try and absorb what I'm being taught, and make my way back. It seemed to be going back was easier because I was going back to the house, you know, to get inside my own familiar surroundings. And anyway, so I'm doing my course. I was actually doing quite well, but they had me assisting over at the main salon, and that was the owner that owned the school too, so I would have had a job to walk into. And around the 7th month, and I'd been over to the house on Simcoe. I had gone and visited Stephen, but the last time I visited, my husband attacked me and threw me up against the wall several times. The wall had that wood wainscot around, and it hurt really bad, and that made me terrified of him. And so, anyway, I didn't go back, but it wasn't long after that they left the country with Stephen. Stephen was by then 2.5 years old. I saw Stephen for the last time at my mother's house. We met with Jane, my mother-in-law, and a social worker, and my mother was there, and Stephen was such a cute little guy, and he was toddling around, and I remember he came up to my knees, and he put his hands on my knees, and he said, "I love you, Mommy," and he rested his head on my knee. Never thought that'd be the last. That's why life is so fragile. You never know when we're given but one precious moment, right? As it said. So the day he waved goodbye as they were going down the walk, because it was being arranged, Elaine's getting a job. She's just going to do her exam. She's already got a job. I'll be able to support him. Well, that was the last day I saw Stephen. And my mother-in-law had other ideas, and they were in the works for some time. And in the works, possibly, even when Tony and I were first parted, I think she had it in her head. I heard from some of her friends. She had English girlfriends. They had like a little English group. That some of them were very shocked what she did. Said that she had always wanted another child, and had tried monkey hormones. I never heard of anything like that. But back in, I think it was Liverpool or wherever she was originally from, tried hormones to try to get pregnant, get fertile. Anyway, Jane had taken quite an attachment to Stephen over the time that I was going to the school. And they were noticing that. I didn't notice it because I'd go over and visit and everything seemed fine, Well, so then my mother didn't know what the heck to do. She got a hold of a private investigator, and he came to the house and said, he could possibly help. The court wouldn't do anything. We went with this useless lawyer, Marnie Stevens, who was supposed to be top-notch lawyer, one of the top-notch lawyers. Marnie had forgotten to put the injunction out saying that Stephen could not be taken out of the province of BC because the custody had to be settled. Well, when my mother got a hold of Marnie, just before she got a hold of the detective, when my mother contacted Marnie Stevens, Marnie said she forgot to do that paperwork. So, did she forget? That was always the question. Or did she get paid to forget? Because she was a top-notch lawyer. Was Marnie paid off? When I went to that house on Simcoe Street to see my son, there was no for sale sign in the yard. They did it privately. They knew all how to move behind my back without me being suspicious of anything. So what they had done was they had traveled to New Zealand, but we didn't know where in the world they were, and the RCMP would not get involved because it was a domestic matter. And I couldn't get custody of Stephen and I was told I was going to have custody, but I couldn't get custody because we couldn't find Tony, my husband and father of Stephen, to bring him to court. So, 4 years went by, and my mother received a letter from my mother-in-law's mother, elderly woman, and she lived in Ormskirk or somewhere, Lancashire. And she said how sorry she was about Stephen, and that he was, I believe, she said, 4 hours traveling time from where she was. And I think she was in Britain. So, yeah. She wasn't happy with what her daughter had done at all. And my father-in-law apparently didn't want to go for this either, but because of Jane, he did. I mean, his wife, you know. So, I never did go with any private detective off to New Zealand. I could have. When we found out, you know, where approximately Stephen was, but the thing is, Stephen was older. I'd say he was 6, 7 years old by then, and I was not going to go to any school and steal him away and put him through. He would know me. He would know what the hell I was doing. What is, you know, I couldn't do that. And another thing too is that I didn't want to go with this man anywhere. It wasn't like my mother said, well, I'll come with you, or someone. I just didn't want to go. And so it didn't happen. And my son has lived in New Zealand since they moved there. And he's about 54 years old. I've tried so many times to reach out to him. When he was younger, he phoned me, and then I don't know, he got married. He and his girlfriend ended up having a baby, and I know he said to me on the phone, I don't want to have children until at least we've got a house. But they had this little boy, and all I know is that his name is Turan. And he's now a young man. And that's it. My husband resides in Australia somewhere, remarried, had kids. And after my mother passed away, when I was 26, after she was a sudden thing, my mother-in-law came out from Australia, and she got a hold of my aunt, the good aunt. And Aunt Hilda just ripped a side off her. She was just furious with her. She said, you evil, wicked woman, what you did, you know. And didn't stop Jane. Jane wanted to find out where I was. So she did. And she came to visit me. And I was living with this fellow, Al. And I remember it's almost like I had no viciousness in me. I had no anger in me. I gave her a hug and a little bit of chit-chat about Stephen. And then the three of us went to, Al and myself and Jane went to the museum. And she'd say to me when she had a chance, she'd talk to me about different things. She'd say, would you like to come back with me to Australia? I'd say no. Every time she, are you sure? No. I said, I don't want to. And I don't want to go there. And she eventually, she went back. That was the last time I spent any time with her. There's no way I could go back there. What am I going to do? Do I want to be around these people that stole them? Can I trust? I trusted you. I trusted you with my love. You're like the mother I would like. We looked a lot alike. And you are capable of stealing my son? And you're asking me if I would like to go and live down there? No. It's just too difficult altogether, and I was made a stranger to my son. And so that's the way it's been. I would think that Jane is long gone, and my father-in-law. I don't have no idea about my husband with the fires going on in Australia. My heart goes out, and I think, oh my God, I hope he's okay. And I know Stephen, I believe, is still living in New Zealand. And I guess that's the best I can hope for. What was really the joy in my life was when I was told I was pregnant with Sean. And that was, some years I was heading towards 30. And I thought I had the flu. And I was really feeling off. And, boy, the doctor tells me I'm 2.5 months pregnant. And I immediately became very, very, it was like I wasn't walking on the floor. I felt really lifted. And everybody knew in the waiting room when I came out that I was pregnant. And knew on the elevator when we were going down to the main floor that I was pregnant. Everybody had to know I was pregnant. I was just ecstatic. I don't think I've ever been so happy. And this was a whole new beginning for me, a whole new family. And Doug and I were getting married. I met Doug and known him for a little while, and a while before I ever thought that I'd be married to him. But it turned out that way, and I trusted him. He was light and bubbly. I owned a nice home, character-type home in Victoria on Obed Avenue. I bought that with the money left from my mother's estate. It didn't pay for it outright, but it was a good down payment and stuff, and I could afford the mortgage, and loved that home. Beautifully built, solid family home. The people had raised 5 kids in that, and the father had built that home, and it was solid. And I did the gardening, and I had it fixed up. It was beautiful. And even had the ringer and the doorbell, and the stained glass window in the front door. It was really cool. It was really old-fashioned type. But not heritage, Not something that we're, Anyway, beautiful home. And I'd lived there for a while with Al, this fellow. And then we were parting ways. And so then eventually Doug moved in there, and I'm pregnant. And I only noticed a couple of things with him, but friends of mine didn't really take to Doug. But I seemed to think he was wonderful. But he did do a couple of things that were like really, just childish to me or something. Sean did something to his, after I'd given birth to Sean, Sean did something to Doug's guitar and broke a string or something. And not that Doug was a real guitar player or anything, but, even if he hadn't been, what Doug did next was go out on the front porch and trash his guitar on the stairs, which was really surprising to me that he would do such a thing, And we had neighbors, and we always used to joke about it, because his neighbors had a nook in their kitchen across the street in their house, and it was a corner window, and they were always sitting there, and they were always looking out the window. I must have seen that. Anyway, I left it there because I wasn't going to clean it up. But Doug there was a few little things I noticed, but who's perfect? I still overlooked the smashing of the guitar. Overlooked that. He wasn't being mean to me. He wasn't being mean to Sean. We were fine until one day Doug said, I want you to sell this house and move up island. I want to start a roofing business. And, I wasn't for that. I really loved the house. And, didn't want to move up this way, to be honest. It wasn't the happiest area for me to be. But he said, if you don't move, I'll go without you. And I'm thinking, good, he's going to leave me alone, like with Sean. And I couldn't have that. We got married. So I reluctantly sold the house and bought that place up on the corner of Union and Royston Cumberland Highway. Faces the Royston Cumberland Highway.
Yep.
And that's where a lot of unhappy, horrible things happened there. I chose the house. I didn't say this is the house we're buying, but out of the homes that we had looked at, the other two, which was out at near Kin Beach, not at the beach, but near it. But it was in the hot weather, and there were snakes sunbathing all over the lawn and wound around the bushes and stuff. I saw that night.
Yeah, they got to go too.
That was it. I didn't want to see the inside. And then the other one seemed to have red shag carpeting all throughout the house. And then it looked like a takeout stand. It was a little hole in the kitchen wall like that, where you stand in the living room and say, pass me this.
Yeah.
Like a takeout stand. My house was a big old-fashioned house, and it had a kitchen, and it had a eating area, and lots of cupboards, and it was like, these places, snakes, was just, so finally the third one we looked at, out Cumberland Way, was in the woods. There were ferns, lots of trees, and property sloped up, and I like property that's not all flat, and I could see rockeries coming down, and and the inside was, basic, open, let's say nowadays, the open concept. Of course, it didn't have an island, did it? Boy, that won't do. But anyways, these days you have to have an island in the California closet, it seems. Or else you just don't make it. I don't know what's the matter. Something's really gone wrong with society and people. I mean, a California closet, this is what... There's a commercial that talks about the California closet, and this is where the woman says, and this is what it's brought us to her California closet. Like, and everybody needs open concept, and they need that island.
Yeah.
They freaking need that island, and the one for outside too for the barbecue. I mean, it goes on, and it. I'm sorry to go off the track here, but really things do bother me. Get to me about what we all need these days, or what's the what is the middle to upper class people say. I hate using the word class, but they all seem to follow after the same style.
Yep.
And we need the professional gas range. An ordinary gas range doesn't cut it. It's got to be the professional one, and preferably now, because they're all in a colored one, like yellow. I mean, they all have, it goes on and on and on and on and on and on and into detail, and let's buy the garbage can that you swipe your hand over, the lid opens. Oh, gee, it's time to, I don't need to tie the garbage. Push a button, and the machine in the garbage can ties the frickin' bag. What are we coming to? Like, I can't get with it. I don't want to get with it. I don't see why we can't hang diapers out on the clotheslines. I don't see why people don't flush the poop where it's supposed to go, and not all scrumbled up and out to the dump. Although I hear it makes a methane gas. Someone explained that to me the other night. Elaine, you haven't been out there for a long time. And I said, no, I haven't. I don't like it since it's changed. Well, they've got these things, these coverings, and the methane gas is coming up and it's doing things to keep... I don't know, they're using it for energy.
Yep. Yep.
Anyway, that's news to me. But, yeah, I just... I have my views over things and my likes, and I really, truly believe in clotheslines and wood stoves, although they need to have a really good filter system, and I think they do now. They have a really safe filter system on them. At least only a very small percentage of stuff gets emitted. But I don't know. It seems to be more and more and more. Gotta have it. Gotta have it. Gotta have it.
Yeah.
Life, and kids gotta have it because the other kids have got it, and they gotta. And it's sad because, let's face it, a lot of parents can't afford all this. The kids nattering away that they want to have it, they gotta have it.
There's a class system in place in our society.
Yes.
There's a war on the poor
Yeah.
in our society that continues to this day.
Yeah.
Rich people, I've said for a long time that rich people don't like poor people.
No, I don't think they do. I think they all almost get into a feeling where they feel somewhat better because they can afford the expensive boots and go to a shoe store and spend $300, $400, or $500 on a pair of boots.
Yep.
Whereas someone else might have to go to Ardene's or a thrift store to find a pair of boots.
Yep.
There's always been classes. My mother would tell me when I would bring friends home, and maybe she didn't particularly, I don't like the looks of that person. It could be a bad influence on you, and they're not from our class. And I'd say, what class? What is this class? You're religious. My mother was a Christian. Well, where does this class business come in? Where does all that, where is there room for that? But she, definitely wanted me to be with someone that was, going to take care of me and going to have a really good job financially, and take care of this lovely little refined Elaine. And it's not that I wasn't refined. I was never a hard person or a mean person or whatever, however you want to. I wasn't into gangs and doing bad things or whatever, but I wasn't refined. I think it made me resent all this uppity stuff because of what I experienced in the family. They always thought that they were one up, and oh no, you don't associate with them. A lot of their friends lived in the uplands and places, and but my aunt, my good aunt, that lived on Beach Drive. Sure, she lived on Beach Drive. The house is still there. I saw it when I was down getting treatment. And that, you couldn't ask for anyone that was more down to earth. And did she think about class and this and that? No, hell no. She did her own thing. She lived a wonderful life. And they lived a very, I'd say, far more rich life than what the real rich relatives lived. Because of their mindset, because of what they enjoyed. It wasn't all about show or presentation. And, we just had it decorated. No, there was none of that. So yeah, I guess what I really like is a simpler life.
Yeah.
More basic. And here I am in this living room surrounded by a lot of things. And it's been a lot of years that I got into collecting. And, doing beadwork, making things and all that kind of stuff. But actually collecting. Oh, I should finish about the hairdressing school. Boy, this is scattered, isn't it? How are we going to do this? Are we going to have to do some reruns? What the fuck are we going to do?
We'll just keep going.
All right. To do with the hairdressing school, just when I was about to take my exam, that's when they took Stephen. So that went out the window, and boy, I really spiraled down. And, of course, I had Al, that was my boyfriend. He was always in the wings if he wasn't right with me. My life seemed to remain in neutral for some years.
Do you see Sean?
Pardon me?
Do you see Sean?
Sean's the one that was just killed. He's in the
Oh.
river picture of him there. Yeah, he was killed October of 2018. He was murdered. They attacked him with hammers. And it was on Kerry Road. Check 6 did a little thing on.
Sorry.
Oh, I'd just been diagnosed with cancer. And I wasn't sure whether I wanted to have any treatment, because I don't feel sorry for myself. I have to keep going, but at the same time, it's hard to keep going. Sometimes you get just plain fed up with fighting the fight, trying to keep your head above the water. And a lot of people must know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
But, there was an accident, and we haven't talked about that yet, and we will. And so it's coming away from that accident, a lot of horrible things happened. I learned things. I learned more about I learned about greed. How family can turn against you. A lot of different things about people who you believe are good people, that you can trust, that you can't trust. But you shouldn't, that you should not have trusted. You trusted, but you shouldn't have trusted. There's where you made the big mistake. But how are you supposed to know? I can't look inside their brain. I like to see the best in all people. Anyway, yeah.
You want to take us through the accident? It's,
well, with
what I've read
Sean's,
about it is quite a show of survival and strength on your part, because I don't know if I was in the same situation, if they would have been bringing me out in a bag.
Yes, I would like to talk about what happened with the accident. Maybe we should go there. I have to start from where I need to start.
Yep. Start wherever you need to start.
All right. I met a wonderful man. His name's Fred, and turned out he was a fisherman, and we got into a relationship, and I decided, through a lot of coaxing from people, to go out on the fishing boat with him when he went fishing. And he fished out of Prince Rupert, but the fishing went on up in Haida Gwaii. And so I decided I would go. And Fred was he had salt water in his veins. He had fished for probably 40 years or more, and that was his life.
Yeah, I know a few of those guys.
Yeah, and his boat, Ocean Gem, was built. She was a beautiful boat, and he didn't keep her like a work boat. She was beautiful inside and out. No money was spared when he had the money to make sure Ocean Gem was in beautiful shape. All the cabinetry all made, and his brother made, just, nothing's square. Nothing's square in a boat. So everything had to be properly fitted, and it was just gorgeous. Anyway, so we left. He kept his boat in the slough. He liked the fresh water coming in, and he liked the slough. It was more private than the Comox Wharf. So the day came, and we left, and I was afraid. I'm going to talk about the most recent trip. Okay, I'm going to the time when, just so that I can explain about the accident.
Yep.
We were looking forward to leaving the slough. As usual, we always like to get out of Dodge. Once that bridge was open, the 17th Street Bridge was open, boy, we were yahoo. We're out of here. And so it wasn't any different at first. I was really looking forward to going up and fishing. But then a fear came in me, and I told Fred, I said, I don't know whether I really want to go. I'm afraid. And Fred said, that's okay, love. He said, I'll go up to Prince Rupert, and when I get up there, because it takes quite a while, and weather permitting too, sometimes you're stuck somewhere for a week anchored down before you can move on more to get up there. So anyway, I'll just phone you when I make it up, and then you can fly up. And there was no problem as far as he was concerned, but then there was to me, because Fred had been recently diagnosed with prostate cancer, and I wasn't gonna, in my heart, I couldn't have him going and doing that whole trek on his own. There's just no way. So I decided I was going. Fred said something to me that was sort of off the wall. There's a lot of things that would be off the wall in this. He said, now I want you to bring a flare gun. And he knew I didn't like any kind of gun. And I knew where the flare gun was kept downstairs, but there's no way, what would I need a flare gun for? Excuse me. And he said, well, you never know. You know, I just think it'd be safer for you, you know, we have a flare gun. He would take Trusty Rusty, his old rifle, with him when he went beach. Anyway, so off we went. Fueled up in Campbell River, and then we were headed for Blunden Harbor. That would be our first stop off, like it usually was all the years that we've been going out fishing. Blunden Harbor is a gorgeous place on the mainland, and you go in between two big hills that meet the ocean. You go in between down a channel, and then you come out to a beautiful bay, and there's a white sand beach. You think it's a white sand beach, but it's actually clamshells, because the natives lived all along in there. But in the late 50s and into the 60s, they were herded out of there like cattle, out of their homes. That was a village there at one time. And all you see are, you know, remainders of that there was life there at one time. Part of the log house juts out over top of the beach a bit. I said to Fred, you know, it's so beautiful in here. You know, there's a burial island. And just was imagining, and you could see signs of life. You know, there's oftentimes you'd find footwear, like the sole of a shoe, different things, a bit of machinery or something, but all really ancient, old, and rusted, corroded. Anyway, we'd go there, and the first time we went there, I said, I want to look for beads. And Fred said, oh, believe me, there's no beads here. And my heart sort of sinks, you know, but I thought, no, village, there's got to be in. You know, I'm a pretty determined person in some cases, and so, especially when it comes to looking for things. So I decided I was going to look for beads, and I got down, and after an hour or two, I found my first bead, and then I found a half a bead, but they were beads, and you could make out exactly what they were. And Fred said, oh, I know there are beads on this beach. So it became like an addiction with Fred and I. So that's where we stopped off first. We did our bead thing, and then we went up and got into Camano Sound, and went on to another beach, and we parted in that bay. It was a nice bay. We parted there. I can't remember the name, I'm sorry, but if I had a map, I'd know. But anyway, we parted. He went one way, I went the other way. We were beachcombing. And all of a sudden, after a while, you know, and I'm standing, I'm up at the bush line of the beach, and I'm looking into the forest. It's so beautiful in there. There's all these ponds and emerald green moss around them. Like, it's so beautiful, and the big ferns, and it's just so quiet and beautiful, and I'm just looking at this in my own little world, and suddenly I hear Fred shouting and screaming, Elaine, Elaine. And so I stepped back, because I was up at the bush, and I made eyes with this gargantuous wolf. He's on a log. I'm here. He's on the log about that high, and he's standing. And he's beautiful. And I step back, and our eyes met. I think I scared him more than he scared me. And he just, and then Fred fired the rifle off. Well, whoosh, he just big dive into the woods and he was gone, and I'm going, holy.
What was that?
He says, where's your flare gun? It's in the skiff. Well, and so I thought, well, maybe this is why I need the flare gun. Couldn't be a reason. Anyway, after all those years, and I'm having to bring a flare gun now at this point, didn't seem right. But anyways, there's a reason for all this. And everything happens for a reason. So we continued up. We got to Prince Rupert. We planned to stay there a week. And that week would be getting our licenses from the fisheries and getting meeting up with the other fishermen that were coming in, some of them that live there, and having socials on the boat and coffee and jokes and latest what's going on and what's going on with the fishing, when's it going to open, and all this, important talk. And lots of joking. It was great, just like a family. Anyway, we spent about a week there and went to town a couple of times. I think we went to the casino. That was about one of the things that you could do in Prince Rupert. Casino. Anyway, came time to leave, and we were excited, because we had talked about going back to this bay called Tyan Bay, where we had beachcombed some years before, and it's really it's an outside beach up in Haida Gwaii, and how do you say one is more beautiful or more interesting than another? All the beaches up there have their beauty and their interests, and it's just a remarkable area. And so we were going back to Tyan. I wanted to get some of the shards of stone. It's a green stone. I wanted to get some shards, and we had seen some shards of the stone so that I could do an inlay for the backsplash of the stove on the boat. And that was our plan. Anyway, we leave Prince Rupert, and we're underway. First off, we're going to be stopping at 7 Mile, because that was one of Fred's favorite places to go. And 7 Mile is a very, very sheltered area. There's no civilization, but the natives, I believe, had made a breakwater, and you have to know exactly how to navigate to deke into this little sheltered area. But once you're in there, there's a nice long dock, and a stone's throw over on a little island, I think it's called Refuge Island, is a little native, just a one-room little native house, and they have a little smokehouse next door, and I guess from time to time they go there and smoke their fish. But going in, because I loved that little empty little place that had little makeshift bunks and things in it, it was cool to me, so I always had to go over there and tidy it up and sweep it out. They had broom there. And add some things, and as the years went by, I would add books and all sorts of things. A thing for them to write, like a journal, because there was kayakers that were going there. There was all kinds of people stopping in there from time to time. And just imagine the conversations and the people. Anyway, so then someone did some artwork in the journal and addressed me as White Raven. And I thought that was really nice. And I made things. I was really into crafts and shells and stuff, and so I made a rock concert, and I'm gonna make more. Believe me, I like doing it. Have you seen them? Oh my goodness, you can do them up really cool. This was a flat rock with all these little rocks that I've collected, and they have to be sort of oblong. And then you get, the little seashells that look like hats, and you put those on top, and then you sprinkle them with whatever, crab shell that's orange and dried, or whatever you want to do, or dried seaweed, whatever. I decorated all the hats and everything. And they're all the audience, and you call it a rock concert. So I made that, and I put it over there, and people just really like the things that I was bringing over there. Lots of magazines in case the women want to look at stuff, and whatever. Even putting new carpeting in the outhouse. We were going to go styling. So we spent one whole day at 7 Mile, and this is where things start to, I don't know, where I see things are starting, things were happening. We took the skiff and went to our favorite bay, and doing some beach combing, and I saw a rock, and I mean, I've been there so many times, but I noticed this rock this time, and it was taller than the TV, and it, and on the top of it, it had bright green moss and Fred's favorite yellow wild strawberry flowers growing, bright yellow. There they were in all their glory. And then there was like an alcove in that rock where a body could sit in there. And you could actually sit. It wasn't a perfect seat, but you could sit. And it was like this special, to me, it was like a throne. And it had the crown on the top. So I thought, I'm going to make this special for Fred. I could see him bumbling over logs and down there. So I thought, it's time for us to have tea anyways. We always took tea and oranges and stuff, so I'm fixing this all up and putting another flat rock down so he can rest his feet. And I'll sit over there and everything. I had Fred, and I holler, and he comes down. And I said, I've got a special place for you to sit. So he gets seated in this thing, and he said, oh, this is really cool. Hey. I said, yeah, I've never noticed this rock before. I mean, I've never looked at it in this way or anything, but it's been here all along. It had to be. And I said, it's got the beautiful emerald green moss up on the top and your favorite flowers. Like, this is your seat. This is your chair. So he had his tea and everything. And as I'm standing there, I happened to look. The beach goes up a little bit, and I happened to just look over. And I saw this circle. About 3.5, 4 inches around circumference. And it caught my eye, and I said, just a minute, and I went up. And what it was a rock sticking out of the ground, out of the sand. And the circle was part of the rock. But if I hadn't been standing at that certain angle, because we were on that part, I never saw it. And when I pulled the rock out, it went like, it was shaped like so you could hang it in a corner. It almost like was a corner rock. But it was nature made, and then it had this pocket in it where you could put a small plant, and then it had the ring on the top, so you could actually hang it if you wanted to put the pressure on that, but I wouldn't because you don't want to break the... Anyway, I'm starting to look at this, and I'm thinking after, well, gee, I would have had to be standing at a certain angle to find that. Anyway, so that was how we spent that, and we went back to the boat, and the next day we headed up for Otard Bay, and Tyann Beach was the next place we wanted to investigate and look around and collect some shards. One thing Fred did say is that maybe I wish we could have spent another day here, but we were heading up, and it was going to be quite a long journey, hours, to get up to Otard Bay, so we had quite a trip ahead of us. Now, in that trip on the way up, Fred's, how sometimes things will go quiet. We were in the cabin, and they were just butting along, and Fred said, I've been rolling something around in my mind, and he said, I need to tell you about it. And I thought, oh no, what could it be?
Make sure you join me for part 3 as we pick up Elaine's ordeal on that beach back in 2011.
You've been listening to The Doghouse with Andrew Davis.